Welcome to another episode of CrossTalk. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I will be your host for the next 30 minutes. What we like to do with this particular program, and we have many great programs here on Whitman Hanson Community Access, is use it as a vehicle to better inform the residents of Whitman and Hanson. Those are the two great communities that we serve. And we have a variety of topics, whether it's issues that one of the communities is dealing with. It might be an upcoming event. It might be political in nature. We just finished with town meeting in both communities. That's always a hot topic, depending on what the articles are on the warrant. But this particular program today, we are going to be speaking with someone who is looking for your vote come May 19th. That's Saturday. And of course, the town of Whitman, they hold their elections at the auditorium of Whitman Town Hall. Joining me today is Heidi Hosmer. She's looking for your vote for the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. Heidi, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I lived in Rockland for about 30 years, and we just, over the past year, bought a home in Whitman. I love this little community already. The one thing I can tell you is I was in Rockland. I did a lot of community service. I was on the Board of Assessors for 6 years. I was on the Energy Committee, and we got 2 grants for solar panels on 2 schools. And also I was on the Historical Commission. So I do love to serve the community. I've always been involved. I am a corporate trainer. That's what I do for my job as my profession. I train and teach people. So I'm really passionate about learning. I do love children. I have been on 3 mission trips, 2 to Mexico, and in 2016 I went to Guatemala.
Wow.
Yes, so I loved just to serve people in general, and that's who I am.
Talk to us about your job. It sounds like a fun job.
So my job, I do a lot of training material creation and training delivery. I facilitate. Most of the training I do is virtual now through Skype meeting. We have very little live training now, and I'm going to tell you that it does work. That virtual teaching can work.
Okay.
So it's pretty exciting.
You mentioned about somebody who has served your community, formerly a Rockland resident, now a proud Whitman resident.
Right.
Talk to me about the importance of being a person who is a member of a committee and getting involved with whatever it is that committee does. You talk about being an assessor, historical society. Talk to me about being a part of a board.
I think that being a part of a board is just serving the community, and that's really important. And you can advocate for certain things when necessary, and it gets you in touch with everyone for different reasons. So on the Historical Commission, we would talk to a lot of people with the older homes to make sure they're doing what they need to do. Being an assessor was the most interesting thing because I got an in-depth look at budgets, levies, tax rates.
Oh boy.
Tax rates and property valuations, all of those things. And it really gives me a good insight and a good overview of how the entire process works and how everything ties together.
So you're somebody who, again, you have that experience to draw on, to be a member of a board and to follow whatever the mission or whatever it is that the board or commission is doing or committee is doing, that you're able to be someone who is civic-minded.
Exactly. It's for the good of the whole community. You have to look at what's best for everyone and make sure that the important needs are being met and that everyone feels like they're included. And I think collaboration is a huge thing, that people need to work together for the good of the community and no divisive things, but just collaboration.
Why school committee? What was it that made you say, of all the possible committees that I could be on in this community, I think school committee is the thing that I want to, do, and I want to be a part of that process?
Well, it's a board that I've always kind of been interested in and how it works and how it feeds up into the rest of the town budget and just education in general, especially where now I'm a corporate trainer and I'm involved with learning and teaching. So I've always cared about that. I put 2 kids through public school. You know, I've had one of them involved with a little bit of special education. So that's a passion of mine to make sure that we give all the children what they need. So school committee, where there was a space open, an opportunity to serve, I thought, that would be a space that I could help this community.
How different is it running for an office in another community? How different is it?
Well, it's different in that it's a challenge because I'm new and not many people know me. So that's one thing.
Yep.
But also it gives me, a challenge equals an opportunity. So that gives me the opportunity to get to know all the folks in Whitman.
What's it been like getting out and introducing yourself, getting acclimated to the voters, saying, hey, I'm somebody who wants your vote come May 19th?
It's been okay, really. It's
Yep.
been a lot of things I've put on Whitman Pride about myself, introducing myself. I am inviting folks to my home tomorrow to have some coffee and maybe a muffin or a snack and just get to know me as well and ask me any questions or tell me any concerns that they might have regarding the schools.
What are you hearing early? What are you hearing right now from the voters? What are you hearing from the residents? What do you feel are some of their primary concerns that they're sharing with you?
The couple of things that I've noticed is the concern about not having enough resources for the schools to give all the students what they need to be successful. I think that's a big concern with these, the budget and everything, and they did mention at town meeting that 2020 it's going to be challenging to get the funds. So I think that's a big concern from folks is that whole thing. And my concern too is that we meet the students' needs first. That's my priority, is making sure that we take care of our kids.
Yeah, it's interesting that was kind of the thing that was echoed at the Whitman Town meeting is that things are dire right now for this community. It's realized that the revenues that they're currently generating, it's gotten to a point where there has to be joint meetings, whether it's with department heads, whether it's with the town, the municipality, and the educational arm of this, or more or less the regional school district. What's your thought in regards to funding? We saw 2 years in a row where the school district, the annual assessment, has been higher than normal, but some people don't understand why it's higher than normal. Has anybody said anything to you in that regards, or is that something that you're still trying to get a grasp of?
I've heard mentioned that the Chapter 70 money has not been what they anticipated they were going to get from the state, and that does affect how we get our revenue to run the schools, because if we get less from the state, that puts more burden on the town. And I think that's a good piece of it, from what I've heard.
Okay. What do you feel are the issues in your particular race? Because there are 2 seats. Well, first, here's the interesting thing is that your race is the only race on the ballot. And there's 3 candidates seeking 2 seats. There's 1 incumbent, and there's 2 new faces. You're one of those new faces. I mean, what's it like to hear the issues or know that you're one of 3?
Well, it's interesting, for one thing. It's not the first time I've been in a political contest.
Right.
I'm the new person, so yep, I'm a new face for sure. It's just an interesting dynamic. Actually, I think the incumbent that we have has done a great job, very knowledgeable. As far as the other person, I don't know them, but my hope is that they're as passionate about the schools as I am and supporting them the way I plan to.
Okay. Talk about your understanding of budgets and what you feel you would be able to provide as a fellow committee member when it comes down to the budget season, when it comes down to deciding, what monies are needed, what assessments should be put forth to each community that the district is serving.
Well, I think when you're looking at a budget, you have to look at it very closely and really look at the priorities. I think you have to prioritize the things that are the most important and critical to the education piece. That's number one. And, maybe look at some things that aren't as necessary at the moment, right? That you can maybe put on hold until the situation gets a little better. But I think prioritizing is the main thing. And there's a couple of other things that you need to look at. I mean, we got salaries involved, we have health insurance involved. There's a lot of different components that go into the budget besides just running the school itself or the students. So all of those things, need to be looked at, and conversations need to happen so that the kids are the priority. That's, to me, the most important thing, and that's the way I would approach it.
Okay. The board that is concluding the school year just selected a successor to Dr. Ruth Gilbert Whitner. Give me your thoughts as to the possibility, whether it's you look at it as a possible new member of the school committee, or just a resident observing an incoming school superintendent, however you want to put that hat on. Give me your thoughts on not only Ruth and the job that she's done, and your hopes for the gentleman, Jeff Simonak, who is the outgoing Whitman Hanson Regional High School principal, taking over at the helm of the school district.
Well, I think the current superintendent, what I saw at the school committee meeting just the other night, was that she's very passionate about the schools, and she's very passionate about learning and the pillars that they've created, and I really think she's created a great foundation for somebody coming in, from what I know of her. I mean, I'm fairly new and I'm just being introduced, but what I saw, I was very impressed with. I think she's leaving a really great legacy. And what I've seen of Jeff is that he's really caring about the safety of these kids. I feel like that's a big priority for him. And that's important with the opioid crisis and all of those things, that we have somebody that's really teaching these kids, with the reenactment of the car accident and the drinking and driving, and really trying to drive that message home. I think I was very impressed with that. I feel like that's going to be a priority for him, and that's a good thing. And then that all ties into the social, emotional part of the school, where kids really feel valued and they value each other, even through differences, because that's another thing that is important to me. In my current role at my job, I'm on the Diversity Council, and a big part of that is appreciating differences and working together. And I think that ties in, and I think he's going to do good at that. I really do.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Talk to me about the regional agreement. We know that at this past town meeting, they passed over an article to approve a regional agreement that has been worked on by the school committee. I guess there's still some language that's being worked out. Your general understanding as to the agreement, which they were updating it was needed to be updated. I want to say it was more than 20 years out of date, and of course they had to change some of the language. The importance of keeping up with things like a regional agreement.
Well, it's important because you're dealing with another community, so you have to come to a consensus on a lot of things. I have not looked at the regional agreement yet, but I do know that it's important because you are a region, so you're essentially working as one body at the end of the day. So I think those are very important, that everybody agrees, is on the same page, and is working together towards the same goals.
Okay. If you are fortunate come May 19th Talk to me about being on a committee that has 10 people. That's a big body. How do you have your voice be heard if you're one of 10? And of course, you're one of 6 that represents Whitman.
I think you have to be thoughtful about what you're going to say and make sure it's something that's going to add value so that when you do speak, people will listen to what you have to say. And I think the big part of that is doing a lot of listening in the beginning to get to know who the folks are and to really dig in and become familiar with all the issues that they face meeting to meeting. So for me, it would be a learning, spending a lot of time just listening to people first before I just go talking. I think listening is a big key. And then once I do that, I can formulate some ideas and thoughts and then speak thoughtfully about topics that I can add value to.
What's your understanding of, again, I think you've got a grasp of where Whitman stands. And again, knowing that this is a regional school district, have you had a chance to kind of get up to speed as to the town of Hanson and how they are financially and how that could play a role come 2020 and the next couple of budgets if you're elected?
I think they've been really trying to hold the line in Hanson. Actually, a friend of mine, one of my closest friend is the assessor appraiser in Hanson. So
Okay.
I hear different things, and they're trying to hold the line in the budgets, and the property valuations increasing play a part in that. But I think they face many of the similar challenges that we do from what I've heard.
It sounds like you like numbers.
A little bit.
Do you really?
I'm kind of a little bit, I don't know, numbers or just formulas or figuring things out and making things work. I think I kind of geek out a little bit like that.
Okay, so you could be the person that's turned to in regards to numbers, and you already mentioned that you kind of have you have knowledge of working budgets and levy limits. Any fears in regards to having to do a Prop 2.5 override because that could be one thing that not only the school committee has to get out ahead of and educate the public about, but you're looking at the elected officials like the selectmen and the town administrators from each community having to get out if in fact they need to do a Prop 2.5 override to generate revenue to be able to take care of all services like police, fire, and of course provide a quality education.
Overrides are a tough topic. People immediately look at their bills and say, oh my gosh, here we go. The thought is, oh my gosh, here we go again.
Yep.
So if we have to go that route, I think we have to be very thoughtful about it and make sure we've exhausted every other possible avenue first. And once we've done that with transparency, start to address the selectmen and the other departments and do some collaborating, and then come to the folks in the communities with a well thought out, very transparent explanation about why we need this and where exactly is the money going to go for this particular override. And I do realize that you can earmark it for 1 year, and then after that it just becomes, it compounds
Part
and
of the general fund.
and it becomes part of the general fund. So I think people need to feel comfortable that if we do need this for any of these reasons, for whether it's to fund something in the school or for the fire or the police, that it's almost like a foundational budget type of thing.
Yep.
Where even though technically it's only earmarked for 1 year, that we can maybe do some foundational budgeting with this override that makes sense, and that people will know that it's going to continue to help where the need is until that need is met, and then maybe you shift it. But I think transparency is huge. If people really understand the why behind it and understand that it really is needed and we've exhausted every other opportunity there is.
During your explanation, you actually mentioned the word transparency 3 times. It sounds to me as though that is something that you feel is essential as an individual who was elected by the people to serve the people.
I absolutely do. I think we need to have transparency. We have to be out there communicating with the residents, giving them the situation, giving them the facts, letting them see how are their tax dollars being spent. I think if you're transparent, then they'll have more confidence in your decisions when you're representing them.
Yeah, this is a community. I will say this is, in watching this community over the past 15 years, I've had the privilege of kind of watching as each issue, whether it's financial, whether it's an override is put forth to be able to balance the budget, or if it's something that's needed for the education or needed to enhance technology, or if they needed more firefighters or needed to buy an apparatus, buy a fire truck. Or I've seen that. There are times that the town has said, yeah, we support this. But there's been times where the town's like, yeah, no. There's been attempts to build a new DPW building here in Whitman, and residents haven't necessarily embraced that. But I think there's a thought that eventually they want to do something with the current DPW building. Again, I'm going off topic here, but we're still talking about spending money and finances, and that's definitely kind of key. So you mentioning transparency and getting out ahead of it, it really is key.
It is key, because if people really understand and transparency in the budgets, where is the money going and how is it being spent, right? I mean, costs are going up all around us, and they continually do that. I am in the private sector, and I see it, and I see even a big corporation that I work for, doing things they need to do to stay efficient. So it's an ongoing thing, but we just have to be thoughtful and transparent to the folks if we do need to ask them to go above and beyond.
Okay. Talk to me, you had mentioned during your earlier introductions about special needs. How important is it that when it comes to special needs that the school district and that the residents are cognizant of the importance of providing those services for students in need?
Because they're people too, and they are going to grow up and they need to function in society successfully. So it's very important that they get the same foundation that all the students do. And just because special needs doesn't mean that somebody is necessarily impaired. It just means it could be a dyslexia thing, or it could be things like that, or a style of learning that may need to be different. But it doesn't necessarily, and it doesn't mean that a student is impaired. It just means they need to learn a different way. And so it's just important for them to learn and feel valued in the same and included, just like all the other students. It's all part of that. And I think that has a lot to do with the kids learning how to treat each other with respect, and that bullying is a definite no-no. And I mean, I feel like some effort needs to be put into that kind of thing. And also just acceptance and learning that it's okay not to agree with someone or think the same way as someone, and that doesn't mean that that's someone, because you don't think the same, is of any less value. It just means that you think different. You have a different perspective and a different point of view.
Right.
And I think a lot of that even starts with the adults, even in the community. I mean, how do we embrace a new student? How do we embrace a new resident in the town? How do we respond to a new resident that wants to get involved?
Okay.
Do you get to know that person?
We got a little less than 5 minutes left, and this is your opportunity. If there's anything I haven't asked you, but you feel is kind of important to discussing about you as a candidate, or just kind of your thought process in regards to this committee that you want to serve upon.
Well, I think that I can be very helpful on the school committee. I think it's a different committee from being an assessor,
Yep.
but something I do care about the kids a lot. I've taught Sunday school.
Really?
Yes, and when I've gone on the mission trips, it's been to work with the children mostly.
And for folks who don't understand, because not every religious denomination does, what is a missions trip?
Well, you go to a country, and it's an outreach thing, and of course you're sharing the Word of God.
Yep.
And you're helping folks.
Building things.
You're building.
Helping.
We've built. When I went to Mexico, we built a house. These people living in half trailers with blankets. Their idea of electricity is cords across dirt roads. I mean, it's really incredible. So it's not just sharing the Word of God, but it's putting feet to it, putting feet to your faith, and going out there and actually helping people, loving people, and supporting them. And so a missions trip is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. And if anybody ever has the opportunity, I would greatly encourage it.
Okay. Now, this is your opportunity. If there's anything you'd like to say to the voters who are watching this right now, why it's important to select you, check your name off, whatever it is that they do when they go into the voting booth on May 19th, please, if you will, inform them as to why they should vote for you.
I think that, folks, I would really appreciate the opportunity to serve you. I've always served the community in Rockland. I care deeply about the community I live in. I have integrity. I will always be transparent. You can always reach out to me. I'm an open book, and I will serve you passionately and very diligently. And I would appreciate your vote. And to give me a chance, I know I'm the new kid on the block, but I would appreciate the opportunity to serve you. I would be honored and humbled.
Do you have any way for folks to find out more about you? I don't know what the extent is that you've done as far as campaigning it, whether it's a web page or whether it's social media per se.
I've put some things out on Whitman Pride. I am opening my home tomorrow morning for folks to come in and have coffee and a snack and just chat with me and get to know me and how I feel about things. And more importantly, I want to hear about the concerns of everybody in the community, particularly the parents in the school district.
Well, we wish you the best of luck. We hope that all the candidates, even though it's impossible, we wish everybody the best of luck.
Of course, absolutely.
And hope we hear back from you one way or the other. And for you out there at home who are watching this, it's important to get involved with the community and get educated about the individuals who are seeking to serve the community in a greater capacity other than just to be somebody who's a taxpayer. Remember, it's up to you to make the right choice, just to make a choice, not the right choice, but to make a choice by going and voting. If you need more information, stop by the town clerk's office at Whitman Town Hall, and they'll be able to provide you more information, whether it's maybe you can't vote that day, absentee ballots, whatever it may be. But be informed and get involved. And we look forward to hearing more from you if you have any thoughts as to future programs we should do here. www.WHCA.tv is the way, and feel free to put in the subject line what exactly it is that you are seeking. Until next time, have yourself a great day.